COVID-19, an illness impacting health and finances. Tonight, KPRC2 helps get answers for families suffering from the economic impacts. This is a live Ask 2 Town Hall. Coronavirus and your money.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Gutierrez.
Hello, I'm Dominique Saxa. The numbers of sick, recovered, and tragically deceased are a key focus of the COVID-19 pandemic.
But as we take measures to prevent more community spread of the virus, our economy, of course, has taken a huge hit, creating hardships for many families here in the Houston area.
So tonight, we are joined by a group of people who are working to help those facing business closures, lost jobs, and mounting bills. They are here to answer questions that were submitted by you.
Joining us tonight is KPRC2 local consumer expert Amy Davis, who's been working every day to answer your COVID-19 consumer questions. Also on our panel tonight is Tim Jeffcoat, the district director of the Houston office of the U.S. Small Business Administration.
And representing the Texas Workforce Commission is executive director Ed Cerna. That agency has been working to process a record number of unemployment claims. We are also pleased to be joined by Benny Augusto, who is the current president of the Houston Bar Association. That group is hosting a free weekly legal line for people who need some legal advice on everything from evictions to paid COVID-19 sick leave.
Over the next hour, we will also talk to Anna Babin with the United Way of Greater Houston about resources that are available for families. And we'll also be joined live by financial advisor Richard Rosso about handling your savings and your investments right now. And we'll talk to Harris County Commissioner Adrian Garcia about the county's Small Business Assistance Program.
We have a lot lined up for you, so let's get to our panel now. Thank you, all of you, for making the time and being with us tonight.
You're welcome.
Mr. Cerna, we'd like to begin with you. One of the biggest frustrations that we've heard from viewers, and I know that you've been hearing it as well, is not being able to get through to the Texas Workforce Commission. Demand for assistance is at record levels. So let's start with where things stand. How many applications have been processed, and what's being done to get everybody the help that they need?
Sure. And first of all, let me say, I completely understand the frustration of your viewers, our neighbors, our customers. And I will talk about everything that we're doing. So far, as of probably yesterday or a couple of days ago, we processed 1.2 million claims. Yesterday alone, we processed over 60,000 claims and paid out in excess of $122 million in benefits. So the numbers are high. We have more people that still need assistance. The one thing I'd like to point out, people are frustrated with calling a phone system that is clogged, and we've done everything we can to expand that phone system. We've added 400 additional incoming lines 2 weeks ago today, and they were immediately flooded with callers. We've added 2 call centers. We've executed a contract with a 3rd outside call center. The state operates, TWC operates 4 call centers in Fort Worth, San Antonio, McAllen, and El Paso, staffed with about 450 employees. We immediately moved 200 employees over inside of TWC to assist those call center staff. We have since moved an additional 300 people over to assist. And then the 2 call centers that we brought on board will ultimately have, and ultimately means by the end of the week, ultimately have 50 individuals working, and then we have 2 more call centers coming online in the next week and a half that will bring on another 600 people to answer calls. But I would like to point out that the majority of claims that we get are online. 95% of our claims are processed and accepted online, and our online system is available 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, while our call centers we've just adjusted the hours to 7 a.m. To 7 p.m. 7 days a week. We've added a day and an hour, 2 hours per day, and a day of the week. We've gone from 8 to 6 Monday through Friday and 8 to 5 on Saturday to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week. So that's where we're at right now.
Well, we're glad to hear the staffing has been beefed up. I know we have a lot of questions coming your way, Mr. Cerna. We will be back with some specific questions from our viewers who are facing the unemployment process that you were talking about, and we'll have that shortly.
Meanwhile, let's turn to Mr. Jeffcoat. On Facebook and Twitter just last night, Governor Abbott wrote that Texas ranks #1 in approvals for SBA's Paycheck Protection Program loans, and businesses here have been approved for more than 88,000 loans, totaling close to $22 billion. He also said he'll announce more on plans to open businesses again tomorrow. In the comments, though, under that post, quite a few anxious businesses lashed out at banks for either an inability or an inefficiency when it comes to processing the SBA loans. Is that an issue that you're seeing? And what are some of the hurdles that you know some small business owners are struggling to overcome during this process, Mr. Jeffcoat?
Okay, great question. I am not seeing that. There's a range of lenders that are currently doing these loans, these payroll protection plan loans. The way that this program was envisioned was that it kind of rides on top of an existing network of SBA lenders. So these are banks that most of us know, name brand banks that we do business with, and we can go to them and they can execute a loan that is backed by the SBA. In this case, they're backed by 100%. Those banks that have been doing this lending in my district, in the Houston district, which is the 32 counties surrounding Houston, have been doing this for years. They're very good. They're very efficient. And they've been doing record numbers of these PPP loans. There are some very new lenders, some that are just learning how to do this. And there are some that have been dormant for a few years and they've come back, and they might have a little bit of work to do to get up to speed with the other lenders. But we've designed the whole system so that it's what we call a delegated system. We delegate the responsibility to the lender so that they can use their own systems, their own forms. And essentially, to oversimplify, at the end of the process, they turn to the SBA, say, we have a loan we'd like to execute. We say, yes, you may, and then it's done. So we've also seen a record amount of activity here in Houston.
Are there specific issues that you are seeing?
You know, the thing that comes up sometimes is that some of the banks have executed so many loans that they are getting to a point where their bank should discontinue doing large numbers of loans. That's what failed us in the Great Depression a long time ago. So they're being very prudent with what they're doing. Other banks, some of the very large banks, have so many customers, they received a deluge of applications. So it simply was taking them time to get up to speed with that huge volume of interest, but they are doing it. I can tell you that the first weekend that this lending was occurring, which was the 4th and 5th of April, I stayed on the phone with lenders from my home for the entire weekend. They were working incredible hours, bringing in temporary staff and doing everything they can in order to meet the volume.
They are busy for sure.
All right, Mr. Jeffcoat, thank you for your response. Let's loop in our consumer expert, Amy Davis, now. Amy, you've been working out of your house for what, maybe a week or two? At last count, I think?
Going on 3 weeks.
Going on 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's counting?
But who's counting? Amy, a lot of the questions coming into our Ask To through our website, click2houston.com, are about that stimulus money that's starting to roll into people's bank accounts this week. So if you don't mind, let's do a rapid fire Q&A round since we do have a lot of questions. You ready for that?
I'm ready.
Okay, so the first one is, will the stimulus money received be deducted from our 2020 tax refunds?
No, and I've heard this one a lot. The IRS, this is not taxable income. You do not have to pay it back.
All right, and so, Amy, will the IRS then keep the money if you owe them money?
No. So the IRS will not deduct money if you owe back taxes. Even if you owe on federal student loans, they will not take money out of your stimulus payment for that. They will, however, take money out if you owe back child support. That is the only thing that the IRS will take money out of the stimulus payment for.
And what about people who receive disability SSI? Will they qualify for that money?
Yes, if you receive disability, SSI, or regular Social Security payments, you absolutely will receive a stimulus check automatically. There's nothing that you have to do. The only exception in this case is if someone else claims that adult as a dependent, and in that case, if the recipient is claimed as a dependent on somebody else's taxes, they would not receive a check.
Okay, and then this one also from Ask 2. What if I took money out of a 401k in 2019? Will that be considered income to determine my eligibility for the stimulus check?
Yeah, so 401k withdrawals count as income. They must be reported to the IRS. So if you made more than $99,000 as a single filer factoring in those 401k funds, or if you made more than $198,000 as a couple filing jointly, you will not get a check. Now keep in mind, if you haven't filed your 2019 taxes yet, the IRS will use your gross income from your 2018 return. So if you didn't have your 401k withdrawal then, maybe that's the return you would want them to use if you haven't done your most recent taxes.
Got it. Okay, consumer expert Amy Davis, going on week 3 at home with a house full of kids. You deserve an award.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Thanks, Amy.
Let's get to Mr. Agosto now. Benny, we mentioned the Houston Bar Association is now doing a free legal line every week to answer the COVID-19 related questions. A lot of people concerned about being able to make rent right now. One person wrote this. Take a look. I live in an apartment and they are still talking about late charges. How can I pay? I'm out of work. How are the lawyers who are volunteering for that legal line able to help those concerned about rent or even evictions, Benny?
Chris, thank you very much for including the Houston Bar Association and Channel 2 partnering up together to get the word out, the legal word out to folks that are your viewership that are watching. The Houston lawyers have a network of participants, volunteers that are right now at the Houston Bar Association connection with folks that are calling in or making appointments for us to talk to them. So when it comes to this kind of example, the folks that have set up appointments for 20 minutes of free legal advice, they would get a call from a certified lawyer, a licensed attorney, and that attorney will talk to them in this case on the rights that they have when it comes to late fees, evictions, whether they have to pay rent or not, or what the Texas Supreme Court has said, and the laws of this county are now in the books protecting folks from potential evictions or late fees. So all this is part of the communication, the conversation that we would have with folks calling in to get free legal advice at the Houston Bar Association, and they do that by going to hba.org.
Perfect. We will have more questions for you coming up, Benny. We want to continue now with our panelists in a moment, but right now we want to talk about the Greater Houston COVID-19 Recovery Fund. It was established as a joint effort by the United Way of Greater Houston and the Greater Houston Community Foundation. And today, the first round of grants from that fund went to local nonprofits. And joining us now is Anna Babin, the president and CEO of the United Way of Greater Houston. Anna, since the money goes directly to organizations, can you talk about how that money eventually will help individuals?
Oh, absolutely. This COVID-19 has created unprecedented need, and it's really hit the most vulnerable, those individuals and families that have already were impacted severely and were living from paycheck to paycheck even before the pandemic hit. And, a sudden loss of a job or wages or access to health care or childcare can really deal a devastating blow. So I'm really happy that today we invested $1.5 million into 30 proven nonprofit organizations. We invested in those organizations that will who have a record and a history of working very expeditiously in times of disaster. And their primary goal is to get to individuals and families the resources around food and emergency financial assistance. And this is specifically for families that have urgent needs, but also for those individuals who may not have the benefit of other supports, such as the government stimulus.
Gotcha. Anna, real quick, how can people donate to help out with this organization and this fund?
Thanks for asking. We would ask anyone who can donate to please go to Greater Greater Houston Recovery. Let me see, right, GreaterHoustonRecovery.org, the website, our website, or you can text "We Help" to 41444. We would be so grateful, because this is really for urgent, critical needs, getting it to individuals and families as quickly as possible through these really remarkable organizations. We would also say, if you need help, call 211 Texas United Way helpline. That is the helpline, the one simple number where people can call for help. But like other helplines and call centers, there are a large volume of calls, and we ask people to be patient with us. They can also, besides calling that number, can go to 211texas.org and do their own search for resources, or actually chat with a specialist at 211texas.org, or they can email us at help@unitedwayhouston.org. Another option is to call later in the evening or on weekends when the call volume is lower. So we would be grateful not only to get support, but also to give help.
You got it. A lot of ways to contact them. Anna Babin, thank you for your time tonight.
You're welcome.
Be sure and stay with us. We do have advice on managing your savings and investments. That's coming up, along with a lot more questions for our panel.
And we want to make sure that you know that every day the KPRC Channel 2 news team is compiling the biggest coronavirus headlines as we're getting answers to some of your questions and offering ways to help support local businesses as well. It's easy to sign up for our daily newsletters. Just enter your email address on click2houston.com/newsletters. And we'll be right back with more in this live Ask 2 town hall right after this.
And we welcome you back to this Ask 2 Town Hall, Coronavirus and Your Money. Our panel of experts are here to answer your questions.
Ed Cerna with the Texas Workforce Commission. We've had a number of questions come in related to unemployment. So let's work through some of those if we can. First, if you are out of work because of your place of employment, had to close or cut hours because of COVID-19, can you collect unemployment benefits?
Absolutely. In both cases, you can. In the second case, where your place of employment reduced your hours, just make sure when you file for benefits that you report that income that you are still making. But in both cases, you're eligible for unemployment insurance benefits.
What about this from an Ask 2 submission? A viewer asks, I was already unemployed when the pandemic occurred. Will my unemployment benefits be extended?
Depending on when those benefits expire, yes, they'll be extended. They'll be extended. The CARES Act added an additional 13 weeks to unemployment benefits to anybody whose benefits expired.
Here's another one from Ask 2. If someone is collecting unemployment, do they need to be searching for work even if they are anticipating their current employer reopening?
That's a challenging question for us, because I think the Federal Department of Labor would like people to continue to look for work. But we understand in Texas that a lot of our businesses want to bring back their valued employees. So we've suspended the work search requirement until the economy starts back up, until the governor says we're going to get things going again. So you don't have to be looking for work, especially if you know you're going to be going back. But if you're uncertain about that, then we would encourage you to take advantage of workintexas.com and find another job.
This next question was emailed into the KPRC Channel 2 newsroom. I'm interested in finding out exactly when the government stimulus checks of $600 per week will be mailed out through TWC. I've received my first check for unemployment, but according to the stimulus plan, there was going to be an additional $600 per week. Can you talk about the extra $600 that people are hoping to receive?
Sure. Everybody that is eligible for unemployment insurance benefits or pandemic unemployment assistance, and those are the self-employed and the contract employees, the 1099 employees, will receive the additional $600. You don't need to do anything extra. You definitely don't need to call us or do anything to get that. We started paying the $600, the additional $600 on the 12th, effective on the 12th. The earliest that we could have gone back, and we did, from an effective perspective, was April the 5th. But the first check, so to speak, though we don't really write checks, it's direct deposit or debit card. But the first checks started going out on April the 12th, and it should be included in your unemployment insurance benefit, and we'll get everybody all caught up with that too. So.
All right. Stick around. We have more for you coming up. Dominique?
And now let's bring in Mr. Jeffcoat. This next question came into text, too. It comes from a business owner. And this person writes, I have a small business, but I also have a full-time job. My business is not open due to the epidemic, but I have bad credit. How can I apply for a loan? And Mr. Jeffcoat, can you address the first part of that question?
Sure. Yes, you can definitely apply for a loan. So if you're a sole proprietor, or if you are just working as an independent contractor and getting 1099s, you can apply for either the Payroll Protection Program loan or the Economic Injury Disaster loan, or both, to make sure that you get the funding to get you through this period. Now, the fact that you have impacted credit may not be a bearing. With the Payroll Protection Program, you will be going to a bank and they will be looking at you as a credit, your credit profile, and so will the SBA. But in both cases, we're looking more for the opportunity to say yes than we are for the opportunity to say no. So if there's a way to make it work, we will be making it work.
And Ms. DeSerna, let's get your answer to the second part of the question. Can this business owner with a different full-time job apply for unemployment?
If they are let go because of COVID-19 at their full-time job, yes, they can apply for unemployment. If they have a small business, they can apply for unemployment, not a small business, but are self-employed or a 1099 employee, they can apply for the pandemic unemployment assistance through our agency. Again, the only thing that I urge is that you include any income you have when you submit that claim application, so that it can be considered in calculating the benefit.
All right, Mr. Serna and Mr. Jeffcoat, thank you for helping that viewer tonight.
Turning now to Mr. Augusto, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act is designed to ensure employees can take paid leave if they or someone they care for becomes ill with COVID-19. Is that something prompting calls to the legal line? And if you could please explain people's rights in this situation.
Yes, we're getting a lot of calls with family-related questions, and also, of course, the Family First COVID Response Act. There's two options for most people in this category. One, the emergency pay sick leave. If someone is diagnosed being sick with COVID-19, or if one of their loved ones they need to care for, their parent or their child, somebody is diagnosed with this illness, these employees get paid sick leave for 2 additional weeks. So up to 80 hours. Of course, the other option is the Family Medical Leave Act, which is special for parents that have to care for their children. In this case, we have a lot of children that are home without schooling, without having to be in school, and the parents can get up to 12 additional weeks of paid leave for caring for their children and taking care of their children. They have to, of course, sign some papers proving that they're the only person that can care for the children. But those are specific rights that a lot of people are asking, and employers must pay paid leave for those parents in that case, whether it's covering for themselves being sick or others, or in this case, if they have children, they have up to 12 additional weeks of paid leave.
Got it. Thank you for that, Benny. Let's get to our Amy Davis. Amy, it is April 15th. On most years, this is tax day, but not this year. And a viewer sent us another question through our text too, which is a way for our viewers to have easily texting us their COVID-19 questions. A quick question for you, Amy, from a viewer who asks, are our income tax returns also delayed? Many people are counting on this money.
Yeah, and if you are counting on that money and you're expecting a refund, go do your income taxes and file them now. Yes, they did make an extension and they're not due until July 15th, but the IRS says that they do still have employees processing refunds. Right now, there is no delay in receiving your refund, so the sooner you file, the sooner you get your refund. They say on average, it takes about 21 days for people to get their refund when they file, so there's incentive there for you to do it early.
All right, Amy Davis. She always has the answers for us, doesn't she?
That she does. Amy, thank you so much. Stick around. And we want to thank all of you who, by the way, were watching on TV tonight. This is just a little reminder. We are signing off here, but we're switching over and we will continue the conversation with viewer questions until 7:30 p.m. online.
We will also be joined by Richard Rosso to answer your financial questions about your savings. Also live by Harris County Commissioner Adrian Garcia, who is going to talk to us about information related to the county's small business assistance program. You'd be surprised when you hear how much money they were ready to hand out and where that money is going. We're going to talk to him about that coming up.
Right. And a lot of people anxious to get that money.
Sure.
We heard a lot about the delays. Staffing, especially on those phone lines, has been beefed up. But of course, they're saying go to the web. It's a lot quicker. Yep. Since this is an interactive Q&A type of a session, we are encouraging you to head over to our Facebook page. You can submit your questions for the experts. So maybe you've heard some things here, some subjects discussed, and it's possibly triggered something. So we encourage you to head over to our Facebook page, ask a question, and we hope to be able to answer that for you on our Click to Houston portion of this town hall event.
Right. Now switch over to the digital side and we'll be right back with much more of this great conversation right here on KPRC Channel 2.
Welcome back. It has been a rough road for the stock market during this pandemic, taking several major losses since mid-March. Richard Rosso, the Director of Financial Planning for RIA Advisors, joins us this evening to talk about your savings and your investments. Thank you so much for being with us. Let's talk about the 401k. It's like a knife to the heart right now. Some people lost a good chunk of money with the market drop, which has a lot of people asking whether they should cash out of their 401k, which normally you never do in situations like these, but there are a lot of people who are near retirement. What do they do?
You know, Dominique, it's never an all or none kind of situation. And you should be a little bit worried about this. I mean, worry is healthy, panic is different. If you are 3 to 5 years from retirement, the one thing you have to remember, you can't afford big losses because you are going to be derailed in your plan. So there is still time for people who are close to retirement or near or in retirement to go ahead and adjust their allocation. That doesn't mean that they should be out of stocks entirely. It means that maybe they need to reduce exposure 20 to 30% so that they can still follow their plans. Because we see a lot of times, we saw it during the financial crisis, where people had to just totally their situation because they got too risky, too complacent. We've seen it over the last 10 years bull market we've had. This is the time for people who are close to retirement to adjust down their risk.
There are some savvy investors out there who see opportunities like these as a way to actually make money in the market. So talk about some of those ways. What can we do?
Well, the point is, most investors are not going to be able to do it. You have to keep this in mind that almost every stock allocation you have is going to go down in a bear market. Rising tide raises all boats. It also, all boats falter when the market goes out. Now, you can have bonds in your portfolio, preferably treasury bonds. Those will go up because people are seeking safety. So that will work. Most important, everybody should be focused on their household balance sheet. They should be focused on how they're going to build up their emergency reserves. We all know the story about how most people can't even raise $400 in case of an emergency. We are now yet in another crisis, and people are not prepared. So use this time to really galvanize your finances at home, and don't worry about making money in stock. Stock market will come back. The question is your household finances going to come back?
You are absolutely right about that. That family budget planning is critical right now. Last question. In your estimation, how will the extended closure of the country impact the markets? And how long do you think it's going to take the markets to recover once the country is finally open for business again?
Listen, all of us, nobody knows what this looks like on the other side. Generally, markets recover before the economy. However, there are times when the market's got validation from the economy. This could be one of those times. Bear markets, if you look at the one from 2007 and 2009, that lasted 27 months, and they are financially devastating. So you don't know where this is going to be. The market is going to do its own thing based on stimulus and so forth, but this is going to be much more of a prolonged kind of situation as companies come back, employees come back. So the market is going volatile. Thus, they're called volatile assets or variable assets. So again, 27 months is the latest bear market. People are saying it's over. It's not.
Sage advice. Richard Rosso with RIA Advisors, thank you for your time this evening. Very helpful.
And tonight we are asking questions submitted by viewers, hoping to get help and answers about issues impacting your finances.
Our guests tonight really represent the U.S. Small Business Administration, the Texas Workforce Commission, the Houston Bar Association, and of course, we are so pleased to have KPRC Channel 2 consumer expert Amy Davis, who appears on our morning news each day, and she's staying up a little bit later tonight to be with us. So thank you, Amy.
Mr. Jeff Coat, let's get to you. People are learning a lot of acronyms during this pandemic. When it comes to the SBA or the Small Business Administration, you have mentioned PPP and also the EIDL. Would you please explain what those are and address concerns about funding and maybe the staff needed to distribute those loans?
Sure. So the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and those of us at SBA tend to call that the EIDL loan. The EIDL is a direct loan from the federal government to the business. It's up to $2 million. To 3.75% for up to 30 years. So the intent is to keep it as inexpensive as possible for the business owner. It's intended to keep them whole while they wait for the economy to recover and their business to continue. For everything that we're doing, we have totally unprecedented demand. We all know what it was like during Hurricane Harvey here in Houston. I equate this to having a few Hurricane Harveys in every state at the same time. That's the level of work that we're dealing with. But we're rising to the challenge. We're executing contracts with people to help us and augment our workforce. And we are seeing things get faster and faster and smoother. The payroll protection program that you mentioned, or the PPP, that's a little bit different. That's not funded directly from the federal government. That money is coming from existing banks and other lenders that already work with the SBA, as well as some that don't work with the SBA. But the vast majority work directly with the SBA. That program came into existence last Friday. So we've had just a little bit over 1 full week of it being executed. So we will set a land speed record for taking an act signed by Congress, passed by Congress, signed by the president, and then turn that into an actual living, breathing program that's funding businesses. I've got some numbers in front of me, and we have done there's over 1 million loans that have occurred across the United States, right around $300 million, which will raise a question. You know that the funding for the PPP program, or Paycheck Protection Program, was $349 billion. Well, if we're at around $300 billion now, then we are approaching that limit. I don't know exactly when that will transpire, but it will be in the next few work days, perhaps sometime next week. But we do know that Congress is working on an additional act or an additional action to fund that some more. There are various numbers that are being reported in the media. We're eager to see that occur. The good news is lots of funding is occurring with PPP. And the follow-on good news is that once that additional funding, assuming it does get put in place, once it's in place, we will be ready to execute at a moment's notice.
Excellent, Tim. Thank you. Mr. Cerna, let's pop you back up. Our next question submitted to Ask Two is this. I am an independent contractor. My work requires travel. My employer has halted all travel. Can I file for unemployment?
If you're not able to work, yes. As an independent contractor, because of the CARES Act, you qualify now to file for pandemic unemployment assistance. You'll need to have certain items that we'll ask you for when you reach us to prove your income, and then you'll also be eligible for the $600 additional dollars a week.
And Mr. Cerna, our next Ask Two question submitted by one of our viewers is also for you. And this person writes, my employer is considered essential, but I don't feel safe due to health. Can I continue to stay at home? And if so, claim unemployment?
Unfortunately, no. That's the one situation where if your employer is open and there is a job available to you, you have to be at work. You can't claim unemployment if you choose not to be at work, unfortunately.
All right, Mr. Cerna, thank you.
Mr. Augusto, let's turn back to you. Let's talk about consumer rights for a moment. If someone's been impacted financially by COVID-19, what protections are in place to keep them from having utilities shut off for non-payment?
Yes, that's a very good question. And we're getting a lot of calls about rent and late fees, but in particular, a lot about electric and water bills. Well, the Texas and the community laws restricting folks from working has caused a lot of problems. And in Texas, folks that have economic hardship can claim that economic hardship and then not have to pay at this moment their water bill and their electric bill. However, those bills are still owed. And more importantly, the laws say that what happens is the suspension of the closing of their water or closing of their suspension of the problems with the electricity, they won't get them cut off. However, they need to connect immediately. And in fact, we recommend that they call directly to the utilities to make sure that they have their rights protected. And that is that even though they still owe and there's going to be some late charges, they can ask for a deferred payment. In other words, when they get their job back or when they're working again, they can start paying what is owed and the disconnection will be suspended. And that's very important for people to understand.
Now, the number of Texas families who applied for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, doubled in March compared with the same period last year. Amy, I know that you have looked into this for our viewers. What can you share about the process for applying for SNAP now if a family needs that help?
Well, there is some good news. So the state of Texas is making it a little bit easier and laxing some of those rules. So they've waived the requirement that you have to do an interview if you apply. As long as you can verify your identity, they no longer require that to speed up the process. But the state of Texas has also increased the maximum benefit that everyone can receive if you're currently enrolled in the program. So basically, everyone should see an increase in their food stamp or SNAP benefits that they get beginning with their April benefits, and then that will also carry over to May. So they'll get more money for food benefits in April and May. Also, if you're currently in the program and all those people that just applied and got in the program, it will re-enroll you for 6 months during this time, so you won't have to go in and do the whole application all over again.
Amy Davis, thank you for that. Don't go anywhere because we'll be back with our panel in just a minute. But we want to focus now with Harris County Precinct 2 Commissioner Adrian Garcia. He pushed for a small business loan program at the county level. In just over one day, listen to this, 7,000 applications were submitted. Commissioner Garcia, that speaks to the demand for this program. How do you choose who gets that assistance, and when will those who've been approved get it?
Well, I'm very proud of the program that we put in place. And the reality of it is it is a true first come, first serve. So those who will get their checks the fastest will be the ones who go through the entire application and qualification process the fastest. So please be waiting for that phone call, for that email. And when you get it, please respond as fast as possible, because a delay in the applicant's response could kick you out of the process. So please follow through with everything you're asked of.
So are people being notified already? And if they have been notified, how quickly are you giving them to respond?
Well, we're giving them the time necessary to respond. But obviously, the program is really intended to be as fast as possible. I'm pushing for near immediate turnaround on the program. But the program won't stand still. So as we qualify people for that 10 million, then people potentially could lose their place. So we'll be very concerned and supportive of anyone that is a good candidate. But please just be as diligent as you can in providing us the information.
Yeah, no, I understand. You've used the phrase flattening the unemployment curve while talking about the loan assistance. What's your hope for the business owners who will receive this county assistance?
Well, my hope is that they're going to keep their doors open. They're going to keep their employees on the payroll. People will continue to be able to pay their bills and stay in their homes. That is what flattening the unemployment curve is all about. And it also means that we won't be adding any pressure to the Texas Workforce Commission that's already overwhelmed.
With $10 million to hand out currently, but $150 million requested by applicants, what advice do you have for those who won't be able to benefit from this county program?
Well, I need you to call Commissioners Steve Raddick and Jack Cagle. They voted against this program initially. But at the end of the day, all of the county commissioners still need to hear from you that we need to expand this program and be more thoughtful about how much more we can bring to the table to support our businesses. We always say that the small businesses are the backbone of our economy. This is an opportunity for us to show that we mean it, and we're going to do all that we can to be as supportive as possible. Commissioner Garcia, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you.
Back to our panel tonight for another viewer question.
We have a Facebook question for Ed Cerna. If you are on unemployment and go back to work, but hours were cut, can you still receive the $600 a week?
A week, plus you can still receive some benefits based on the amount of wages that you're earning, going back to work, even part-time. Again, I just urge that you please indicate to us the amount of those wages and we'll recalculate your base benefit, but it does not affect the $600 if you're still eligible for benefits.
Our next question comes in from Chandra Stone. I applied for the EIDL but have not heard back from the SBA. Is there something else I should do? And that's for Tim.
Okay, that's a great question. The economic injury disaster loan, the typical process is that in the space of about a week or maybe 10 days from the time you apply, you will hear from the SBA. We may seek a little additional information. And then within roughly 4 weeks, we should conclude the process of determining how much money you need and begin dispersing funds. So that is roughly what is occurring right now. I don't have numbers at my fingertips. Unfortunately, here in the district level, we don't have access to that data right this moment. We will soon. But if you need to check on it, just know that, and I have the phone number here in front of me, you can call 1-800-659-2955. That will go straight to our Disaster Operations Help Desk. They work 8 to 8 every day. Or you can email one long string of letters, disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. Either one of those can give you a status on your loan. But the most important thing to do is just, we're right there with you. We will be with you shortly.
Erna and Mr. Jeffcoat, Rosebud Garden Villas just asked, as an independent contractor, can I apply for both unemployment and PPP? Mr. Jeffcoat, would you like to start with that one?
Sure. You most certainly can apply for PPP. What you're going to need is your 1040, your tax return form, and as a sole proprietor or a 1099, they will be looking at that information in order to calculate how much the benefit will be. Basically, you'll take your tax return revenue, you'll divide that by 12 to get an average monthly wage, multiply that by 2.5, and that should be the amount of the loan.
And Mr. Cerna, what would you like to add to that?
Same thing. You can apply for unemployment insurance benefits. In this case, they're described as pandemic unemployment assistance as an independent contractor. If you have any wages, I know that the indication was that there weren't any, but if you have any wages, I can't emphasize enough that you just include those in your application.
All right, gentlemen, thank you.
We realize that everyone is anxious to get their stimulus checks right now, and scammers, unfortunately, they know that as well. So let's get back to Amy Davis here. What do you need to tell people to watch out for who risk losing that much needed money because crooks are looking to make some easy cash, Amy?
Yeah, just be on alert. The IRS started warning everybody earlier this week, and they said scam artists, con artists are already trying to get your personal information to get at your stimulus payment. And so there's a few ways that they're trying to do that. If you get any kind of letter, phone call, or email claiming to be from the IRS, one thing that should raise a red flag is if they use the words stimulus check or stimulus payment. That's what lay people like us call it. The federal government will always refer to this as your your economic impact statement. That is what they refer to the stimulus check as. So if you're hearing from the government, that's what they should say. You want to also watch out for scams claiming that someone can help you get your payment faster by working on your behalf, or they can speed up your payment for a fee. You don't need to pay anyone to do that. Nobody can get it any faster for you than what the government is doing, and they're getting those payments out pretty quickly. And yes, scammers may send bogus checks that look like they're your paper stimulus check from the IRS. But then they'll also may send a letter with it or a phone number saying that before you can cash it, they need you to send them some extra information. And it's probably going to be identifying information that scammer is then going to use to try to claim or get your real check or get at your bank account information. So just keep in mind that the IRS already has all of the information it needs before they send you your check. So when you receive that paper one in the mail, you won't need to provide any other documentation or information. Those are just a few things. Also, the IRS is never going to call you. They're never going to email you or text you. They'll send you a letter in the mail.
All right, Amy, thank you. We have a quick question that just came in for Mr. Cerna. If somebody was scheduled to start a job and now they can't due to COVID, are they eligible to collect unemployment?
Yes, ma'am, they are. They're definitely eligible to collect unemployment. Just submit the application to us, and we'll process that.
And how do they prove that they were, in fact, signing up for that job?
They'll probably have previous employment. If this was their absolute first job, then we'll treat them, especially we'll ask them for certain information, and then we'll process that application. And that will also, if approved, also include the additional $600.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Cerna. Okay, so as we get to the end of our hour here, we do want to touch base with each panelist to see what else they want you to know that could potentially help you and your family through this tough financial time.
So let's start with Mr. Cerna, Executive Director of the Texas Workforce Commission. What additional information do you want Texans to know that will help them navigate this unemployment process?
First thing, I want everybody to know that we recognize how important this is to them. It's not just about the money. We recognize that what we're doing is a lifeline. We know we're probably more frustrated or as frustrated as our customers about our being able to serve you. So we are going to help every Texan that needs help, and we're going to do everything it takes to be able to accomplish that. Would ask for a little bit of help. We did publish on our website a suggested schedule of when you could apply for benefits. It's based on the first digit of your area code. If you'll help us, that'll help control the volume and bring down at the call centers. But I'd also encourage people to apply online. Online is 7/24. Best times are probably midnight to 5 a.m., but anytime 7/24. And again, remind everybody that our call centers are open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week. And we keep adding people to answer those phones, and online as well. We're adding resources there. So
that famous line from Jerry Maguire, "Help me, help you," right? That's where we are.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Okay, thank you. Tim Jeffcoat with the Small Business Administration. Unfortunately, it does not appear that things are improving overnight. Each week will get more difficult for area businesses. So what advice do you have that we haven't touched upon yet?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you for asking it. I think that this actually presents an opportunity. Sure, the businesses are hurt. They need some help in order to get through this, and we're doing that through the PPP and the EID lending program. But right now, when you maybe aren't as busy running your business as you normally are, and entrepreneurs are very busy, this is a great time to do some strategic planning, to plan for what you're going to do differently or better in the future, so that as the economy improves, your business improves along with it, or even breaks the pace of the overall economy. Here in the Houston area, we have about 250 counselors and mentors that are completely free to small business. You don't have to pay a thing. That's the Texas Gulf Coast Small Business Development Centers, the SCORE organization, and the WBEA Women's Business Centers. You can Google those, or you can contact my office and I could put you in contact with them. They will work with you over Skype or over Zoom or over the phone or any way they can. At the moment, they won't work with you in person because we're not supposed to do that. And they will help you put together some really great plans to make your business stronger and for you to prosper when this is over. Plus, They will help you plan for the next time we have some kind of a disaster in Houston that you need to face with your business. So once again, you can get through it strong and come out even stronger.
How about another Jerry Maguire line? Show me the money.
That's right.
Tim, thank you very much for being with us. Let's turn to Benny Agosto now, president of the Houston Bar Association. We have mentioned the free weekly legal line that's helping right now through the end of May. Remind our viewers how they can sign up to take part and what are the most frequently asked questions that are coming into that legal line.
Yes, as president of the Houston Bar Association, I'm really proud of the Houston lawyers because they have stepped up to help our community. Remember, a lot of the lawyers are home too. They cannot work. So they're at home trying to do the best they can, but they're also volunteering to help. The Houston Bar has implemented this new process to call in. So the way you do it is you go to hba.org, and all you have to do once you get there, you find the part of the page that talks about legal questions and legal lines. You will then fill in the information, answer some questions so that a lawyer can call you back and give you 20 minutes of free legal advice. And this is done all the way through 5 o'clock on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday night between 5 and 8, you will have lawyers all over town calling folks that signed up to get free legal advice. A lot of the things that we see is family law questions, visitation questions, whether their folks are still going to get paid their child support, and like we talked about earlier, a lot of landlord-tenant rent and fees and evictions. There's a lot of questions that people are encountering in their everyday life, and the lawyers of Houston are here ready and able to help and assist. And all you have to do is go to hba.org.
That's great. A lot of questions, a lot of negotiating, and a lot of stress tied up with all of that. So any help there is very valuable for our viewers. Thank you, Benny. Okay, Amy, so this is your gig every single day, helping people get answers to their COVID consumer questions and, of course, helping them find ways to save money. You always have such helpful segments on air and on your Facebook page. I just want to ask you, any closing thoughts on your end?
Well, thanks, Dominique. We just want to remind people that the segments that we do on the morning show and every day throughout our newscasts are largely driven by these types of questions that we get from our viewers every day through Facebook, through email. You guys call us and let us know what's concerning you. So a lot of those things this week on our morning show, we covered how to get your money back from concerts and events that were canceled and you're having a hard time getting refunds, or airlines that canceled flights and now don't want to refund your money. So we've got all of those stories airing every day. And in addition to that, every single day, because right now we know it's so important for families to save money and cut down on expenses while families are not able to get to work, we're putting daily savings deals every single day, some small way, some larger, some smaller, that you may be able to save money that particular day. You can go in and you can lower your electricity bill, or you can, lower your prescription drug costs. So every day it's just a little place where you can check and say, hey, what can I do today? There may not be a lot of things I have control over right now, but what's one small area where I could make a dent and chip away at our expenses right now when we don't have so much extra money laying around?
Right, kind of like
that is on clicktohouston.com in the consumer section. Sorry.
That's okay. No, it's like a savings treasure hunt. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Amy, thank you so much. And we do want to thank all of our guests for joining us this evening, and all of you for sending in your questions and for tuning in.
If you still have questions related to any aspect of the coronavirus, you can text us right here at Channel 2. And our team, we promise you, will work very hard to get you answers. All you have to do is text the number 2 to 1-866-996-5772 to get started. After that welcome message, then you can send in your question.
And don't worry if you can't write that phone number down right at this moment. We have also posted the information on our Text 2 program on the Town Hall page of clicktohouston.com.
For now, from everyone here at KPRC Channel 2, we wish you a good night, and we will be back on TV tonight for our news at 10 o'clock.
Good night.